You are the salt of the earth, you are the light of the world. When we hear this gospel, we feel like Jesus is telling us to be more fervent in our faith, much stronger in our convictions, and to speak more boldly about what he has given us, granted us, the gospel. Now, this is all true, but there is some dimension of this gospel which I think sometimes escapes us. Jesus says also, if salt loses its flavor, with what can it be salted? If salt loses its flavor, with what can it be salted? So there's something about salt that is irreplaceable, that is unrepeatable, so to speak. And that individuality of salt cannot be retrieved once it is lost. What does this mean? You see, very often in the spiritual life, we kind of feel like we need to repeat and replicate the holiness of others. And in doing so, very often we kind of lose that which is individual to us, that which is particular to us, that which God has given to us. I think of the example as an analogy. Recently I was in the botanical gardens in Washington, D.C. Very beautiful. And they have such a wide variety of plants and flowers and trees. Quite impressive. I mean, I'm sure there are others in the world, but that's the one that I've been to more recently. What struck me was, there are some flowers, for example, some roses, which are so brilliant, so bright, much that I had never seen before. And I wondered, in some way, if that rose were to be the only thing here, in some way it would be just so beautiful, so satisfying. And yet there's a beauty to this variety that exists in the botanical gardens that cannot be replaced. And that variety depends on the particular beauty of each flower that is one of a kind in there. Now, the rose might be much more impressive than, for example, a fern, but somehow the rose beside the fern is so much more beautiful. And the fern beside the rose is so much more elegant. So there's a harmony of all the creatures, of all the plants in that garden that truly cannot be replaced. Now, Saint Therese talks about something similar. She talks about how, all of us want to be roses, so to speak, in the spiritual life. All of us want to be roses. And yet there's something about every other flower that cannot be taken from it. Let's see what she says. She says, I understood that if all the lowly flowers wished to be roses, nature would lose its springtide beauty, and the fields would no longer be enameled with lovely hues. And so it is in the world of souls, our Lord's living garden. He has been pleased to create great saints who may be compared to the lily and the rose, but he has also created lesser ones, who must be content to be daisies or simple violets flowering at his feet, and whose mission it is to gladden his divine eyes when he deigns to look down on them. And the more gladly they do his will, the greater is their perfection. So there is this harmony in creation, and we form a part of that harmony. In rejecting in some way who we are, what we were made to be, we kind of lessen the overall beauty of creation. God has made you in a particular way, with particular gifts, with particular challenges, but with particular talents. Somehow when we try to imitate others in being holy, at times we can lose what is particular to us. You see, if St. Augustine and St. Teresa of Avila and St. Therese of Lisieux, if Cardinal Newman, if all of these were saints in the exact same way, I would not need to read each of their lives to get a better understanding of what holiness is like. I could read one biography, and then I would know very quickly what all of them should look like. And yet when I read the lives of the saints, each life inspires me, each life amazes me, but I understand that each of these saints is so different from the other, and each of them has brought to our faith something so unique. We too have something that cannot be repeated, something that has never been done before. We have been given some gift, some talent, some virtue that needs to shine today, that needs to be the salt of the earth today. And if we do not bring it to the table, who will? St. Francis de Sales said very simply, be who you are and be that well. That is, very simply, holiness. Be who you are and be that well.